guys, thanks for coming back. So the last few videos that I'd done where I'm stripping the paint and repainting some shells of the 221 and the 2037, it's kind of got me thinking about one of my favorite locomotives. So I purchased this 2056, quote unquote, a long time ago. It was supposed to be a parts locomotive, but when I got it, I mean, the thing is gorgeous. I just loved it. So, and also, turns out it wasn't a parts engine. It ran perfectly fine. But the paint job on it, I don't know if you guys can see this. It looks like it was painted with a toothbrush with half of its bristles gone, and the ones that were left were flattened. It's bad. It looks terrible. So, after doing those other shell strips and repaints, I thought, I think I'm going to give this one its proper due. I think it's time to take this one apart, strip it down, and repaint it to bring it up to its former glory, or at least what its potential is. I'm going to get this thing sitting in some Simply Green, or Simple Green, this stuff, and we're going to let it soak. We're going to strip all of this horrible, horrible paint off of this thing, which I'm hoping shouldn't be that big of a deal. Let's start tearing this apart and get this shell into some Simple Green for stripping. Okay, so we've got the 2056 on the bench, and we're just going to start the tear down of this. And it's really simple. I know I've been through it before with its initial tear down, but it's just one screw at the top. You've got one screw right in here. It's a slot head on this one, and that will take off this whole front section. And then there's the two on the back that will remove the rear trucks. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop out these handrails, and they're just kind of bent back up back here, and then they're held in by these little eyelets. I just want to pry them up and carefully pull these out, like so. So now what we have to deal with is, if you can see at the top here, this screw is heavily painted over. So I would like to get the faceplate off and kind of treat it separately, but that might not be possible with this much paint around it. In fact, I'm looking at that and it looks like, I think they welded that in. I don't know if you can see into the shell, but it looks like there's some epoxy or something up in there that's actually holding that down. I don't think I'll be getting that screw out, but what I can try is pop out that headlight lens, because I don't need to wreck that. And these smaller guys, I think I'm just going to have to deal with them as they are, because I don't think they're coming out at all. Doesn't look like it. Try to give them some gentle persuasion here. No. Okay, our shell is basically ready to go into the Simple Green bath. So what I'm going to do, I bought this plastic container at a dollar store, and it is just enough to set one of these in. I usually set them in upside down like this, so most of the fluid gets to the top, and then I can just work off the rest of it with the brush. So that is what we're going to do now. We're going to fill this bath with Simple Green. We've got our shell off. We've got our handrail off. We've got our headlight out. Let's fill the bath, set this in, and start getting this paint off. 3, 4... I've had the shell soaking in there for about, oh, I don't know, a couple hours anyways, 2-3 hours. And look at how bubbled that paint is already. So if you guys remember, or if you saw the video, the 2037 sat overnight to get that bad. So I do thank the guy that did such a lousy paint job on this, and probably used really cheap paint for that matter too. So now I'm just laying it in on its side to fully get the other side all bubbled up, and it looks like I'll be able to put a wire brush to this really soon and clean it off. Excellent, excellent stuff. Alright, so I am just going to get the toothbrush here. Look at that already. Just a few hours, and this thing is already coming up pretty nice. So, interesting little discovery, too, actually. The original paint is still tight on there, so we're going to let this soak in overnight like I did for the 2037 to really let it penetrate. But I don't know if you can see that, but it was a 2056. I guess my research was wrong. That's pretty neat. So, like I said, we're just going to let this sit overnight in the simple green. I don't have to put any fresh stuff in here. This stuff is concentrated and it's strong enough to finish the job as it is. But that's what we're going to do. Just let her marinate for a bit overnight. Tomorrow we'll come back and we'll see what we got. This is the 2056 soaked overnight. As you can see now, the original paint has actually also started to peel off. So I am going to hook up my wire brush on my drill and have a look and see what I can get off of it now. So yeah, you're seeing this right. This is a vise with an electric drill and a wire brush on a brick. That's about as guerrilla as you can get for these repairs that I do. So, this setup worked to do the 221. It also worked to do the 2037. I'm sure it'll be fine for the 2056. Hopefully. First things first though, just to show you how effective this simple green is, this is just a toothbrush and it's already taking off most of the original paint. Actually, it's taking off all of the original paint. So the wire brush on the drill is just to get some of that stubborn stuff that just won't let go. But, as you can see, the stripper alone has taken off quite a bit. So I'm not going to have to do too much with the drill or use too much force with it, which is great because it's a really difficult setup. So I'm just going to keep going, getting rid of the majority of this with the toothbrush first, and then I will put the drill to it afterwards. Okay, so we have just pulled this shell out of the bath it's been sitting in for two and a half days, I guess. And just with a toothbrush, I was able to get it this far down. All the original paint is now gone. We are right down to the cast. And you can see, this is a pretty rough cast. I mean, there's a lot of cracks and flaws in it and all that, but whatever, that's the way it was in the factory. I did discover that, obviously, that, as most of you already know, this is not the faceplate that came with the 2056. It's a 665 or 2065 face, but they've permanently attached it onto this shell, which is fine by me because I think it looks fantastic. So I was also able to get all of the lenses out, and I also found it had a cool detail that I personally love, and that's the little aluminum tip to the smokestack. So clearing off all the black paint and finding out it had that was just a huge bonus to me. So I popped that out, popped out the bell, and now I'm just going to give it a quick buff with the wire brush clamped to my workbench. So I'm just going to do that right now, just to kind of clean it up. So there we have it. I think that's going to work out just fine for now. Just got a little bit of some of the residue that was in there off, just to tidy up the shell, just that extra little bit. And now this is ready for paint. So one last thing I do have to do is the steam chest or cow catcher, or this front thing, whatever you want to call it, still needs to be stripped off. So I'm going to handle that right now. And then we're going to hit this with the first coat of paint. Okay, so this is the finished shell of the 2056 using the Rust-Oleum satin, and it's just too glossy for me on this particular locomotive. I don't know why, but it's really come out to me like a gloss, way more than a satin. And so you get this side, which is nice, it's pretty smooth, right? Then you go to the other side and look at that casting. It's just terrible. And this gloss finish really enhances that. I'm not happy with this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use some Krylon flat black that was on sale at the local hardware store. I am just going to set this on a coat hanger and start spraying it with its final, hopefully, final coat of flat black paint. Alright, then I'll be back later to show you what it looks like. So here we are out in the paint shop, otherwise known as the clothesline, letting the 2056 dry with the new flat black paint coat. And I'm thinking that looks really good. This is going to work. I'm happy with that. I think it's going to look really sharp once we get the wheels back on it and all of the driver arms. And I'll be able to see the two little lights that are on the faceplate because they're not painted over. I got some nice replacement ones that'll actually allow the light to come through them. So I'm really excited to get this one back together and show you guys what it looks like when it's done. 3, 4. Got the shell of the 2056 all completed with the new flat black paint job. Oh, looks like we got a little scuff there on the metal. I have to do a touch-up. All right. But anyways, most of it's complete, and I think it looks a lot better flat black than the more gloss than the semi-gloss paint job that it did have. Now, what I find interesting is the difference between just even how the castings took the paint job. So if you look at the 2037, which still has the Rust-Oleum satin finish, and that's nowhere near as shiny as how it appeared on this 2056. But I mean, the finish I was going for, here's an original painted 2055. You can see it's much closer to the 2037. But again, for some reason, that satin just didn't look good on the 2056. So there it is there. They're fairly similar, not too bad. I think that's a pretty good match for paint, to match the original Lionel paint, is what I'm saying. But it just wasn't working for me on this one. So we're flat black now. Maybe, you know, maybe I could try taking some WD-40 and polishing it up that way. That might give a little bit of sheen back on it without going super gloss. I don't know, I'll give that a shot anyways. So where we start with on this is by putting the steam chest back on. And like the 2037, you've got the narrow slot in the cylinder for this piece of the arm, and then the two pistons top and bottom, and they're shaped accordingly for whichever arm it's supposed to go in there. We're just going to start bolting this thing back together. and get this thing back on the track. Now we're going to feed the handrail through. You can do it a little slower. Actually, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to straighten that tail out, because that will make things a lot easier. Now we can put the shell back down on, like so. Feed the handrails in, trying not to scratch the new paint job. There we go. There's those. So now I'm going to put the top screw in to hold this whole thing together. Oh, and of course, you have to forget something. So we'll put this one down like so. And then we have the white washer that goes on top of that. So I got that all tightened up, looking sharp. Let's put the bell on. So I'm just going to drop it in. That's nice. Just tap that down. And in it goes. Perfect. Lenses for either side of the face. Using the back of the screwdriver, just give it a little push. In it goes, and the main headlamp slot screw. Crowning piece for me is this smokestack. I love that. That looks fantastic. We got the bell in, our smoke tip. Let's get the rest of this hooked up. And we're back in business. Loving it. Okay, so only one thing left to do now. Get her onto the track. So guys, that is the 2056 painted, reassembled, and put back together. I did add a little bit extra detail here by putting a little red on the window for now. So I'm just waiting for my new stamps to come in so I can put the stamp on the cab number is what I'm trying to say. And that'll be this one finished. Now, I did notice in a lot of the pictures where it's an original 2056, and this stack is actually painted black, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it the aluminum, actually. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments. Should I paint this thing black? Maybe paint it gloss black, or just leave it that aluminum color. But I think it looks really sharp like that. It kind of sets the whole thing off. And again, the flat black, I think it really works with this particular locomotive. I mean, it looks great. It's hidden all of that really bad casting that it had along this side. I think it looks spectacular now. Thank you very much for watching. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. There's a ton of other videos that you can check out. Jump over to Redbubble, check out some of the merchandise that I have. There's t-shirts, there's pictures, all kinds of stuff up there. Once again, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Ciao for now.